Welcome back to the Small Games Show. For those joining us from the Final Fantasy retrospective, this is the other thing that this channel does. Explorations into small and interesting games to see a side that doesn't get talked about much. This week, I have a chill diorama exploration game, a surreal horror experience, and one of the best platformers I've played on itch, as well as a little map treat for you. Our first game is Terra Ninfa by Tabugis. On their itch page they state that it was inspired by the video game Terra and the Gardens of Ninfa in Italy. It was made for the Down to Jam 3 game jam. I was very slightly aware of Terra and looking at it, it appears to be a strategy game about bringing water to a desolate land and getting it to flourish, which is what you'll be doing in Terra Ninfa. I always enjoy playing game jam games, for similar reasons I enjoyed playing Quad in the last video. Game jams present some limitations, a time restraint being common, and then some themes for inspiration. This jam's theme was plants. Jams are a space that breeds creativity using limitations, as well as artistry in the end piece. Instead of a strategy game, Terra Ninfa takes the puzzle approach. A bar at the top of the screen represents the total percentage of the land that you have irrigated, and it is your aim to fill this to the full, blooming the land with plants in the process. This is done by directing water down various paths and doing puzzles to figure out how to open them all. For instance, as water flows down, you want to start with the highest point, as logically water always goes downwards. This means sending the water down the aqueduct that you start next to. But in letting water flow in that direction, it becomes clear that there's a hole in the aqueduct. So this will end up filling one area, but it does not allow the water to flow all the way through each field. So you need to do puzzles to figure out how to plug that hole, and then another, letting the water down every available irrigation ditch. Terra Ninfa has a really interesting perspective for exploration. It all takes place on a diorama-like model, and it takes some fiddling to figure out what is interactable. It ends up being such a fantastic way to design a space to explore. Games, after all, are really good at giving you models to mess about with, and it is not a perspective or a method of interaction you see much. It really reminds me of looking at a book in the first Resident Evil and then finding a key inside. There is so much room for exploration of this player perspective, with this particular game mechanic or something different, and I would love to see more of these toy-like perspectives. This is a game that is also inspired by the Garden of Ninfa. I hadn't heard of the Garden of Ninfa, but taking a quick googe, it is absolutely gorgeous. Ancient Roman ruins stand proudly over a tightly manicured horticultural space. I love that games can show me stuff about the world, show me places that I did not even know existed. And in its simplistic but fun design, this game replicates those ruins, its flowers and beautiful outdoor space. Terra Ninfa is a toy-like game, giving you an object to play with a reward of a lush garden if you manage to unlock all of its secrets, and it all has a cute and relaxing soundtrack to go with it. Lonesome Town is a game by returning to the channel developer Vuk Dobrik, of the previously covered Detective. I was josing after something with atmosphere, so I decided to play this because that was heavily present in Detective. It is another slight horror story, this time exploring the more psychological aspects of the genre. There is some Silent Hill in this game, as well as Pathologic and, weirdly, Psychonauts. Lonesome Town has such an excellent atmosphere, from the musical guitar stings to the blocky models and textures. Vuk manages to extract a lot from what they put in this game. The cardboard cutout character models and environmental bits, like the cars moving back and forward, is just so striking and it pulls you in right away. It creates a dreamlike quality to everything in this game, an unrealness that ends up tying back to its story. The game starts with you having killed someone. From here you must move forward trying to escape, all the while being haunted by the very person you murdered. It works so well as it doesn't really lean into that jump scare that is common on itch, instead relying on an unreality to bring a sense of eeriness. There is a dream space with two characters in drama masks, a well-worn trope, but point to this game being about something else, about inhabiting a character that is viewing the world in a broken way. There are live puzzles throughout the game and they work as tasks to do, but lack a certain amount of elegance shown in the atmosphere and world design. These tasks or puzzles are something to figure out, adding a game-like quality to the dreamlike. That being said, the section at the end, when you have to avoid police cutouts moving backwards and forwards in a maze, is an excellent use of the world as presented and the story it is trying to tell. Lonesome Town could have just done with a few more of these, rather than just finding a code to progress. I do find the story tough to comment on in this game, as this is a translated work with amateur voice actors. I don't say this to be horrible, it is functional and bats above the average for small games, but I don't think it ended up being completely cohesive. This could all easily be down to translation, and I must say it is effective at being additive to the atmosphere. I think I am just holding this developer to a higher bar because I've enjoyed both of the games I've played from them. To be more positive, the way Vuk combines camera shots and little interludes is all really well done. This was something that I saw in Detective and it is really a strong point in these games. It adds a cinematic quality to them and gives it a polish that you don't always see in small games. A very quick thing I want to cover is Middle-earth maps by Master Pros. It is, simply, a map of Middle-earth from Lord of the Rings in which you can click on locations and bring up wiki posts with the history of it. It is incredibly basic, but it illuminates that games, even something so software-like, can be all sorts of cool and interesting things to play around with. That experience of exploration that I love so much in larger things can be experienced in small, little things like this. If you have any attachment to this world, then it can be fun to go and poke at a bit. Our last game is something very special, Moss Moss by Noel Cody. Occasionally, on itch, I come across a small, complete game that is an entire experience unto itself, and occasionally these smash it out of the park, and Moss Moss is one of those games. I have a collection on itch where I add these games as I truly think that they are special, and well worth your time. I'm going to try and link it in the description if you want to have a look at them. Moss Moss was made for Pico 8, a fantasy game console that provides similar limitations to an 8-bit system to try and encourage creativity. I'd heard the term before today, but I only really researched it now. I found that there have been some notable demakes for it, like Celeste, and I have seen it crop up on itch before. But playing this, it has made me know that it is something that I want to keep an eye out for in the future. Moss Moss takes these limitations and makes a tiny, exploratory platformer with a very simple concept. You need to moss every surface, and you do this by touching it at some point. Think how Meat Boy leaves his blood trail on a surface, but with much slower platforming required. And once you have mossed everything on a screen, you will get a very cute, well mossed message, and a leaf will become available for you to collect. There is a leaf for every screen in the game, and the aim is to collect them all, so you need to moss every surface. Amazingly, the game communicates this with almost no text, and feels all the more elegant for it. Moss Moss is non-linear, and you can move freely between the screens as long as there is an exit available. The scope is perfect for this, as it never becomes too sprawling to get lost, and instead gives you a digestible size to wander around, collecting more leaves and mossing more land. The art style manages to be incredibly cute and expressive. There are lovely doots of synthesized wind instruments that play as you moss up ledges, and your jumps provide a satisfying drum-like thud. These combine into a very minimal soundscape that gives a spacey, surreal tone to the areas that you are just mossing up. Platforming in this game is excellent, although it does take a moment to get used to. Your movement and jump height is more limited than something like a Mario, with you having quite a small jump. As you jump up against a wall or ceiling, you will adhere to it for a second before detaching. This is important for getting you to moss them, but also for traversal over spike picks or their like. It is a game about connecting small, limited movements purposefully to get where you need to go, and there is just a joy in the execution of this. There are environmental elements as well. Bubbles that you can bounce off, clouds that you sort of slide through, and a yellow power-up that lets you perform another jump until you touch the ground next. The yellow power-up can then be linked together with another one, or even that adhere to the ceiling thing, and then jump again. And this is where the game creates its complexity, requiring several platforming bits in a row. As Moss is exploratory, it means that often it is not just platforming that is required. It requires an understanding of how the screens link together. There are plenty of slightly signalled secret passages to find that link the screens in interesting ways. Certain tiles, if mossed, will provide a vine to climb up, or produce bubbles to bounce on. Weave simultaneous challenges of mossing up the screen as presented, but then also getting to other screens that remain woefully unmossed. Getting all the leaves means that you can travel up the vine that you start next to get to the top and get a crown, and a win screen. The crown gives you a use anywhere double jump that resets on contact with the ground, similar to the yellow power up. It is a simplistic upgrade, but right away, due to the density in the screens, you can see how it could be used to open up further options. And the game hides its 100% behind these places, behind this ability. Now, I never fully mossed everything due to time restraints, and I know there is a further win screen at the end for getting all of these collectibles, but I can see why you would want to go and do that. I am thinking about loading up this game rather than recording this video at this moment in time, in all honesty. From concept to execution, Moss manages to be the perfect size to fit in all of its ideas, which means you will be consistently surprised and never bored. There are the exact amount of ideas in this game that it needs to sustain its size, each expanded on excellently. It truly has a whole lot of artistry for such a small thing. This week I really tried to push to try and play whole things, small games that are here for the sake of small games, and not to be a demo for something bigger. Honestly, they were a little harder to find on itch than they used to be a few years ago, but they are still here too. I will actually be taking next week off, as I start dog sitting for someone and I want some time to relax as well. It will also be the start of a week off for me, so I will be doing some work on the channel, just don't expect anything to be released. If you enjoyed the video, you know what to do. My name has been Billy. Peace.